we have any other behavioral health services representatives that want to say any words? Bring anybody back there? Pardon me? Okay, we're going to go through the other departmental representatives and agencies. The Crook Tribe is going to go last. We're going to start with the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office. And again, we're going to give you just a brief overview of what we can do and what we can't do, and we'll answer some questions. Chris? Callahan? Sergeant Callahan? Okay, I'm going to briefly mention some things that the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Department is working on, and I'm going to have my sergeant, Sergeant Chris Callahan is the sergeant down here, and he's going to talk to me in a few minutes. But some of the things we're doing right now is we're going to work with the Siskiyou County, our Drug Task Force Summit, Siskiyou Unified Major Investigation Team. I think we have a representative here. You're going to hear from them in a minute on specific drug issues and problems. I know that they're numerous down here. We're working with the other agencies to maximize our employment for work shifts, because we realize that our coverage sometimes is thin. But we have in recent years we've sustained about 30% loss in personnel, and we have challenges just like other county and some state agencies. We are going to continue holding these meetings periodically. I think this one here is going to be a little bit more intensive because it's going to have a lot of information from some of the other agencies. After this, we won't have to do that as much, but we want to follow up on those at least on a quarterly basis and work with the Crook Tribe in that regard, or at least shoot for it. And maybe we don't need a quarterly meeting, but I think we need some periodic meetings to keep tabs on what's going on down here and get the input from you, the citizens that we serve. We're going to energize Neighborhood Watch and also our DARE program. You mentioned getting into the schools. Arden Carr is assisting us with some funding to get DARE back down in Happy Camp and some other outlying communities of Siskiyou County. We're going to work with our partners like the Highway Patrol, the Forest Service, and other agencies. We are also reviewing crime data to try to, we're going to have special enforcement details that come down here. We've had a kind of a mini surge, like you see in the Middle East. We're going to have mini surges here where we get with probation, the Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Office come down here and check parole and probation status, arrest people if they have outstanding warrants, and just if we see people violating the law, we're going to take care of business. And we're going to do that on a regular basis down here to see if we can have an impact. And another thing is, unfortunately, sometimes people have to be arrested before they figure out, gee, I better go into a program to help them out. And one of the things that Siskiyou County is trying to do in partnership with probation, the district attorney's office, and courts, and just virtually every county agency, behavioral health services, we're not only trying to put people in jail that deserve to be in jail because they've committed a crime. We are really seriously trying to rehabilitate people and give them treatment, give them counseling, parenting classes, anger management classes. Some people have anger management problems. If we have too many people in jail, our jail is full all the time. And I'm not making excuses, but since realignment 3 years ago, our jail is full all the time. We are talking to probation and the district attorney virtually every day, decide which felon to release from jail. And I know you get frustrated because some of the habitual offenders get thrown in jail and then they're out the next day. But we do try to keep people in jail, and we do try to give them the tools to be more successful out there in society and not keep reoffending. We're going to partner with the school. I know Alan's back there. We're going to partner with the school, attend school board meetings, and try to get a better perspective from the schools what's going on. We're going to work with the Humboldt County Sheriffs along with our in-county federal, state, and local agencies, as I mentioned. We're going to conduct more drug influence training for our deputies. I can tell you that I was a drug recognition expert for 20 years, and it takes a lot of time, effort, and training to become a drug recognition expert. And we're going to try to attempt to work with the Highway Patrol. The Highway Patrol's got some training and you know, post-test training, police officer standards of training. We're looking at that. We're going to attempt to partner with the community to figure out good programs like Athlete Committed, but maybe we have some youth programs that we could start or invigorate here, keep kids occupied, more wholesome activities. And again, we're going to partner with the tribe to see if we could work together better, you know, in virtually every arena. I know that Judge Asbury, who's the tribal court judge, we're working on also facilitating tribal court orders and things of that nature to make it a little safer out there. We're attempting to expand our reserve deputy program and our explorer program down here for youth. And we are looking at, we just sent some of my people a suicide prevention training hosted by Behavioral Health Services, so we have more deputies trained in how to respond to these types of incidents. Chris, I'm going to give Sergeant Callahan the opportunity to address some of the things he's working on. And also, I've got Keith Bradley, my chief chaplain, and in our chaplain program, we have 10 chaplains now, and plus our chief chaplain, and they get involved in a lot of behavioral related issues and post-traumatic stress debriefings, and sometimes deal with the youth and adults indeed. I'm going to have him address you for a couple minutes, but Chris, why don't you go ahead and just talk about some of the things that you have.
Good to see you there. I'm Sergeant Chris Callahan with the Sheriff's Department. I've been in Happy Camp for about 6-8 months now. A lot of faces out there I recognize, a lot of new faces. So if you ever see me out there driving down the road, feel free to come up and talk to me and throw a hand out there, and I'll try to do the same. Down in Happy Camp here, we've got 2 full-time deputies, myself, full-time sergeant, and then we've got a rotating deputy out of Wairika. As far as our schedule goes, very limited manpower, so what we try to do is we try to spread out our schedule so that we can get the maximum amount of coverage possible every day. There's going to be some times when you may experience a delayed response from us because we're spread so thin. However, we will get there as fast as we can, and we will do everything we can to take care of your issues. Coming up here pretty quick, like this month or next month, I've got a couple little things I'm planning on putting on. We're trying to get with the kids, K through high school even, but there's a lot of times you can't really touch the high school kids when it comes to bicycle rodeos and that kind of thing. But I am going to be putting on a bicycle rodeo here pretty soon, hoping to get all the little ones out there. We're looking at around the 13th. I think there's a kid fair, children's fair going on about that time.
I think it's the 12th.
The 12th, July.
June.
12th, somewhere around
the
there.
Saturday, if that's the Saturday.
Yeah, we're gonna be putting out some flyers for that too. So, been trying to touch bases with all the schools, the high schools, the grammar schools. Trying to set up visits so we can take our patrol cars in and let the little ones go through them, ask questions about all this neat stuff that we carry. They get really excited about that. I've been in the job for 15 years now. I started out in Deep Valley. I've been around long enough to see the little kids that used to come out and tug on my belt and the stuff that I carried. They were my little friends back then. I've been around long enough to see them grow up, and they give me a dirty look now. They do. They're 15 years older now, and they don't want anything to do with it. If there's a way we can try to combat that, and stay in touch with them, that's one of my main goals, is to try to stay in touch with those kids, from little kids all the way to adults. It's pretty tough, but like I said, that's one of my main goals down here, is start with them and try to carry them through high school. We have a couple other programs, events that I'd like to get going down here. It's just a matter of time, but I'll make sure and be in touch with as many folks as I can. If you ever have any questions, or if you ever have any concerns, you know, why we didn't do this or why we didn't do that, please call me. Go through dispatch, 841-2900. Give me a call. I will be more than glad to call you back when I'm available. I may or may not get a hold of you for a couple days. You know, we get days off. So if you ever have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that you know you might be displeased with or anything, just call me through my dispatch, and I'll get back with you. Any questions about what I mentioned? I do have cards, but I don't have that many. I would love to hand cards out. 2 seconds.
I just wanted to have a question about what to do with the whole staffing. And I understand rotating schedules and how all of that works. So what happens when the deputy is sick, can't come in, and I understand response time from Wairika might be delayed, but what about not having anybody dispatched down here at all? So for instance, yesterday one of the deputies was ill, and yesterday we had no deputy on all day, and I know there's been some instances at the school where a deputy has been needed and they're not available.
Yeah, that's
So what do we do?
Well, one thing that we do is we rely on the CHP and they rely on us. There's a lot of times when they're not here and we are, and a traffic collision occurs, we will go take the information for them and you know, make sure they get everything they need to complete that. Times when we're not here, a lot of times there is a CHP unit on, and they are more than willing to respond to those calls to help us out and cover our backs when we're not around. Another agency that's really good for that is the Klamath National Forest Law Enforcement Officers, the LEOs. They're really good too. We all work really good down here because we're all each other has. You understand that.
I do understand.
Been there and you've seen it. As far as a response from Wairika, there's going to be times that may happen. I was the one that was sick yesterday. I hope none of you get what I had, but it was miserable. So there's going to be times we may have to respond from Wairika.
Okay, so just for administratively, if the deputy isn't on, then we just need to go to the outside. Now, will dispatch call out?
If there's no deputy on, they will automatically probably try to get a hold of the CHP.
Okay.
And if they can't, if they're not in range or they're out of range, then we're going to probably try to get a hold of Forest Service.
Okay.
We work our way down to fish and game, and occasionally there's a fish and game officer.
Okay.
We have one deputy living in Happy Camp now. There was a time when we had quite a few living in Happy Camp. Those days are over. We just cannot force anybody to live anywhere. It's just the way it is. When I first got hired, they said, you're moving to Deep Valley, whether you like it or not. You want the job, it's yours, but that's where you're going. Yes, sir, I'll do whatever. Can't do that anymore. It's really hard. But yeah, we do reach out to the other agencies and try to make it happen.
How do we dispute the growing of pot right in the middle of our town? How do we fight that? It's all around us.
It is all over. Yeah.
It's all around us. I mean, you can't even stay in your house.
Do you have information?
Well, Sam, yeah.
Parents would come pick up the kids, and I'm saying, really, I wasn't smoking pot in this house, but
Right.
it's reeking of pot from like all around. A lot of us are allergic to it.
Well, I'm gonna give you an update on what we're doing as a county. And another thing is, anytime you need somebody, you call dispatch and ask to talk to a supervisor or a manager. And and the thing is, we're gonna do whatever we can to get to you and provide the assistance you need. And if Sergeant Callahan's not available, Lieutenant Houtman, he's our field lieutenant, and you will get a hold of somebody. But getting back to the marijuana problem, we just passed, and you got to hand it to our board of supervisors. They stepped up, and so did the planning commission. We just we just enacted a new marijuana ordinance. Has anybody heard about that?
Have it right here. April 16th.
Okay, great. You got a copy there. What, does anybody know what date the marijuana ordinance is effective?
April 16th.
Close, May 7th,
Oh, okay.
but you're close.
Okay.
But anyway, what's going to happen, we have a two-pronged assault strategy for marijuana. And I'll tell you, right now, and I'll tell you up front, we're not after someone who has a legitimate recommendation and is growing a small amount consistent with his or her medical needs. But we are going after the people. If you have a problem with people next door that are infringing upon your rights, then we have a two-pronged attack kind of strategy. One is if it's a crime, we're going to deal with it as a crime. Like they're growing a lot of marijuana, it's not consistent with their medical needs, and you know, they're violating the law in some fashion, we're going to deal with it. However, the ordinance is a zoning ordinance law. It's an administrative penalty. It's kind of like junk cars, or not having sewage, or not having you know, water, sewage treatment or water on your property, you know, in a residence. And this zoning ordinance is going to limit the number of plants. There's an offset distance. There is a distance if they have a generator, and they're going to have to be the primary resident of that property. And this caregiver stuff, you can be a caregiver, but there's still only a maximum number of plants that you can have on that parcel of land, such as 6 and 12, 6 mature, 12 immature plants, like on an acre. What?
Okay, so I have a copy of all
Yeah,
of that right
right,
here.
right.
So the question is, all of it is very clear what is to be happening, and we all know what is supposed to be happening, but what's really happening
Well, let me
is
finish.
so
Yeah, Rebecca,
excessive.
let me finish. The county just enacted, the ordinance just went in effect May 7th.
Right.
The county just hired a code enforcement officer specifically to deal with these problems. Now, they're not going to just deal with marijuana ordinance problems. They're going to deal with junk cars and all these other issues. But that is going to be the primary emphasis. Plus, the Board of Supervisors, and you've got a great supervisor, Ray Howe, representing you, they have also authorized an extra health deputy specifically to assist the code enforcement officer to go after these violations. It's going to be a complaint-driven process. So call the planning department or call the sheriff's office, and you have an issue with someone next door growing a bunch of dope, and you feel that your rights are being infringed upon, then we're going to go check that out. The code enforcement officer working for the planning department is going to go investigate it, and if they're in violation of the ordinance, and they're going to warn them, and then they're going to come back, and there's going to be a process for it's a nuisance. It's considered a nuisance under the law to abate that nuisance. So I think the ordinance, between the ordinance and using criminal law, I think it's going to be a great tool to deal with these people that are, you know, you're not going to be able to set up shop, pitch a tent, you know, grow a bunch of marijuana and you know, abscond with your neighbor's water, and then leave. You're going to be in violation. So we have a lot of, it's going to be a great tool. I think it'll help. And again, the county stepped up and hired that code enforcement officer. I think he's going to start within the next week or two. And I have a trained narcotics agent who's going to accompany the code enforcement officer to help him out in enforcing the code. So I think that's going to help. And also, you're going to hear from Summit in a minute, you know, our drug task force. They primarily deal with like methamphetamine and heroin and some of these other harder drugs, but they're going to help. And we have a North State Marijuana Investigation Team. I have a sergeant on the North State Marijuana Investigation Team, which is a multi-agency task force out of Reading. And they're going to spend a lot of time in Siskiyou County. And their main emphasis working with the Forest Service is going to be dealing with the cartels and the bigger grows. And the private property type marijuana grows are going to primarily be dealt with through the ordinance, or the ordinance, the code enforcement officer, and my extra help deputy. And we're going to hit it hard the first few months, because we're hoping that just to gain voluntary compliance. But you got to call us, because it's going to be a complaint-driven process. Does that help at all, ma'am?
Well, because I think what's been the impressive thing is the smell. You cannot walk anywhere in this town in August and September
Right.
and breathe.
Well, like the offset distance, there's a minimum of 20 feet.
Right.
You have to have, there's the fencing. There's a lot of different restrictions that's in there.
If anybody
That-
wants a copy of this,
Does it have to
Yeah.
be, does it have to be an acre? I mean,
No. The acre is just, there are different requirements.
So they can grow on smaller?
Yeah, like
acres?
over 20 acres, still the maximum is 24 immature and 36.
But they can grow on smaller than an acre?
you can grow
Yes.
on less than, okay, so if you have a quarter of an acre, you can only have 6 mature plants or 12 immature plants. And the guy at the planning place told me
Immature.
it was flowering. Once they start to flower, that's when they're mature. So that's the question. So if the code guy and the deputy then will be the ones that enforce when the guy that's got a quarter of an acre and he's growing 24 mature plants that are smelling up the neighborhood.
Right, then we're going to deal with that.
And then does it have to be like behind this big old fence?
Yeah, it has to have an opaque or,
Right.
non-transparent fence. It's got to be
So
6
how-
feet
So
high.
you have to climb up there
Right,
and
you
down?
can't be able to see, no, they can't be above it, you're not
Yeah.
supposed to be able to
Right.
see it.
Yes, sir.
I've got a two-part question. I understand how the town smells during harvest season, but do you have a plan of action to address the harder drugs that are going on in our town?
Yes,
And if so,
the Drug Task Force representative is going to talk to you. We already are following up some investigative leads here, and the task force has been down here recently. And the Drug Task Force is a very good drug task force, but we got a big county. And I consider Happy Camp one of the big priorities, and I've discussed this with the task force commander, and they are intent on working the Happy Camp area, and they already have some, believe it or not, they have a lot of investigative leads and some names. We'll call them in a minute, and in fact, George and I just went to the district attorney went to a board meeting today, and I guarantee you they've got some things working, and we're going to deal with some of the problems.
okay, now, as a community though, are there steps that we can do to assist you?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. What we ask you to do is you can call our dispatch, and also the Drug Task Force is going to give you a number to call them. And what we're doing on marijuana is we changed our computer-aided dispatch, so we're recording every marijuana-related call we get, so we can go back and look them up, because there'll be a record of it. So whether you call us or call the task force, they're going to be logged in, and we're going to deal with it. Keep badgering us. Don't let us rest. Keep calling it in, because if you call in those leads, they'll it helps us put the information together, and we're more apt to get search warrants and probable cause to hook people up and take them to jail and put them where they belong, or get them treatment, whatever they need. All right, thank you very much.
Second, sir.
Yes, sir.
You said there was going to be a ride-along, officer ride-along with the enforcement person that's administrative. Isn't that exceeding the ordinance?
No.
You sure?
Here's the ordinance.
I know what the ordinance says.
That is not the reason for the extra help deputy is to provide a higher level of safety for the code enforcement officer in the first few months that we're responding to these calls. And he's not there to enforce. If he sees a situation that is a violation of law, then they're going to back out and they're going to call the task force, or they're going to call our marijuana enforcement team. So, and let me just emphasize one thing. If you have a recommendation and you're following the law, you're not going to have any problems from us or anybody else. But if you're growing a lot of dope and you're trafficking, or you're selling it, or the kids are getting a hold of it, or you're bothering your neighbor and infringing upon the rights of your neighbor, then we're going to deal with you. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and nobody reports you, we're not even going to go bother you. And we are attempting to gain voluntary compliance from these growers. And we're trying to respect the rights of people that have it shoved in their face every day. And that's basically why we did this ordinance. And I'll tell you, the planning department, the planning commission, and the board of supervisors, it took us a whole year to get this ordinance. And I think it's a fair ordinance for all concerned. And we tried to do the very best we could. And the planning department took the lead, and I think they did a great job. And they listened to everybody and tried to come up with an ordinance that met everybody's needs and still comply with law. And we're not going to abuse it, and that's not the purpose. Yes, sir.
Change the subject.
Yes.
To help alleviate, I don't know if you're for it or against it, some towns like Willow Creek, they have volunteer patrol that works with the police officers. They do the process serving and things like that. But the town's not left without protection like we are, and having a 2.5-hour wait on, because they handle the smaller situations like traffic control when there's an accident. So there's always an officer on board. So there's some kind of program or private security firm that might be able to be hired through the board of supervisors, so we will not be left unprotected. Because like a couple of weeks ago, I did a citizen's arrest on somebody. The highway patrol had to respond and had to wait 2.5 hours for a sheriff to get there to arrest that person. And what are our rights as citizens to do a citizen's arrest? Can we detain them? I know it gets touchy. You should film it because they could claim you hurt them. And, so is there a possibility that we can approach the board of supervisors together and see if there's enough money to hire a private security firm to come in here and leave us not unprotected and have to have that 2.5-hour wait? Well, no officers on duty.
Right. I think one of the reasons we're having this town hall, we're going to have more, is to kind of come up with ideas like that. Are there other alternatives? Now, Sergeant Callahan is working on Neighborhood Watch.
Right.
He's working on DARE. We do work with Karuk, the tribal security has helped us out quite a bit on recent calls. So we're going to tap every resource we can.
That would be a good proposal. I just want to know if you're in support of that, because I'm going to make that proposal and get signatures to the board of supervisors.
Well, another thing is,
be in support of that.
right, but citizens have the right to make a citizen's arrest. You got to be careful about that because it can be dangerous. We also are trying to expand our reserve deputy program. We're part-time deputies.
Right.
And there are some alternatives, and we need your help.
Yeah, because what's happening is because when, there's that wait time, then people start thinking vigilante, and so it's creating crime rather than suppressing crime. So if we can cut up some kind of letter together, maybe in conjunction with the tribe, maybe that would entice some youngsters to want to go be a police officer and go to post training, and the tribe would participate in that. And so I think we should make a proposal to the board of supervisors now and get some kind of commitment so we can start getting worked on, right away. And then the other question I had is, if and when you get your new jail, can the old jail be designated as a rehab, mental health facility, and a homeless facility because it's big enough? Maybe it could be a government-to-government deal with the tribe involved, because we need that. And what happens, like if there's a team challenge in place, and again, if we don't start working on this now and getting the approval from the board of supervisors, instead of waiting until it closes and then start working on it, it's a big delay. So if we can commit to that now, then with your backing, then Teen Challenge can move in and start working on it now. Mental health, maybe the tribe, with grant monies for the rehab that's needed, and let it happen. Now when a person gets in a drug-related crime, it's happening to the other team challenges, the judge actually sends them to that facility, and they have a 96% success rate.
Right, well, if we build a new jail, we've got $24,140,000, we're getting $2.8 million more. We're trying to get a SB 863 grant to build the infirmary and the kitchen for the jail. If we build the jail, it's not going to be built, the new jail won't be built until about 2019. However, the plan is to use the old jail as a day reporting center like we have now at the old juvenile hall, and we will use it for rehabilitation, treatment, counseling, and those kind of things. And obviously we would be open to partnering with the Karuk tribe and any of our other service providers. And Art Carr talked about some of the great programs going on right now, because we are trying to rehabilitate people. Those will take place in the old jail if we build a new one.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.